We tend to think of things like technology, finance, and government regulation as totally separate worlds, right? Each one is a storm system, kind of doing its own thing. But what if they're not separate? What if, right now, in 2026, these massive forces are actually merging into a single perfect storm? One that's building something we've never seen before, a completely new kind of economic engine.
And look, this isn't some far-off sci-fi idea. When the CEO of BlackRock, we're talking the world's largest asset manager, lays out a vision this big, you have to listen. That's not a prediction, that's a roadmap. This one sentence hints at a total rewiring of how money and assets move around the globe, and that's exactly what we're going to unpack today.
So here's the core idea. We're in the middle of this massive convergence of three huge pillars. First, for the first time, we have real regulatory clarity, which gives everyone a solid foundation to build on. Second, on top of that, we're building new digital money, basically the financial plumbing for the entire internet. And third, you add a layer of artificial intelligence that can actually use that plumbing to make decisions on its own. These things aren't happening by accident. This is the blueprint for a whole new way of doing business.
So, here's how we're going to break this all down. We'll start with how regulators went from turf wars to teamwork. Then we'll get into rewiring the world's money. From there, we'll look at the really wild part, when machines start paying. And finally, we'll ask, with this autonomous future, what happens next?
Okay, let's start at the very bottom with the bedrock, regulation. Because you can't have a real revolution until everybody agrees on the rules of the road. For years, the digital asset space was, frankly, a total mess. But that is changing, and it's changing fast.
I mean, this is just a night and day difference. Think about how it used to be. It was all turf wars. America's top financial cops, the SEC and the CFTC, were basically fighting with each other. It was confusing, it was hostile, and it just pushed all the smart people and new ideas overseas. But now we're in a regulatory thaw. Instead of fighting, they're coordinating. The new goal is to provide crystal clear rules and, importantly, to bring all that innovation back home.
And this isn't just wishful thinking. This is real. You can see the momentum. In 2025, the Genius Act finally created clear rules for stablecoins. Then, at the start of 2026, the SEC and CFTC held this huge harmonization event and launched a joint project crypto. This whole thing kicked off a clear roadmap for the next 1 to 2 years. We've officially moved from a punish-first to a rules-first approach.
So what's the game plan for this Project Crypto? Well, it really comes down to three things. First, clarity. Finally drawing bright lines so everyone knows what's a security and what's a commodity. Second, coordination. No more making companies jump through two different sets of hoops. And third, and this is a big one, actively supporting innovation, creating safe harbors so developers can build cool stuff without looking over their shoulder all the time. Okay, so with the rules of the road getting clear, the builders can finally get to work. That brings us to our second pillar, how the world's financial plumbing is getting a massive upgrade. We're talking about the new pipes that will carry value across the internet. If you want to understand the scale of what's happening, just look at this number, $1 trillion. That's how much is moving through stablecoins every single month. These are digital dollars, basically. This is not some tiny niche experiment anymore. It's a full-blown parallel financial system, and it's huge. And you know who's noticed? Investors. Big time. Just look at this. Venture capital money flowing into stablecoin companies went from less than $50 million in 2019 to over $1.5 billion by 2025. There's a saying, capital follows clarity. This chart is proof that the market believes these new digital dollars are the future. So why does all this new plumbing even matter? Well, it's all about getting rid of inefficiency. The old way, which is still how most of Wall Street works, is called T+2. It means when you make a trade, your money is stuck in limbo for 2 whole days. But the new way? It's called atomic settlement. The trade and the payment happen at the exact same time. It's done in seconds, not days, and it runs 24/7. It's a game changer. The other huge piece of this new plumbing is something called tokenization. It's actually a pretty simple idea. You take a real-world asset, like a share of stock, a government bond, even a piece of property, and you create a digital version of it, a token, that lives on a blockchain. Suddenly, things that were hard to trade become super easy to buy, sell, and send anywhere in the world. And I'm not kidding when I say this is going mainstream. We're talking about BlackRock again. They didn't just write a paper about this. They launched their own tokenized fund called BUIDL. And get this, it pulled in $500 million in just a few months. When the biggest players on the planet start building on these new rails, you know the world is changing. All right, we have the clear rules. We have the new financial pipes.
Now let's add the final piece of the puzzle, the one that makes everything else feel like a warm-up act. What happens when you add an intelligence layer on top? This is where it gets really interesting. This is when the machines start paying.
But first, we need to be really clear about a key difference. Automation is just about doing the same old things, but faster. Think about a macro you'd run in a spreadsheet. It just follows the rules you gave it. Autonomy? That's a whole different beast. That's about machines making judgment calls, assessing situations, and taking action without a human looking over their shoulder. It's the difference between a calculator and a coworker.
And this brings us to this incredible new concept, autonomous finance. We're talking about AI agents. Some people call them digital colleagues, or my favorite, bots with budgets that can go out into the world, do research, negotiate deals, and securely buy things all by themselves. They're not just tools anymore, they're becoming actual participants in the economy.
And here's the thing you absolutely have to understand. This intelligence layer can only exist because of the other two. It all stacks together. An AI agent can't make a payment without the new financial plumbing, the stablecoins, and tokenized assets. And that plumbing couldn't be built safely at scale without the clear regulatory foundation. Each layer unlocks the next, creating this powerful, self-improving system.
So we've seen how these three massive forces, regulation, money, and AI, are coming together to build this new engine. Now for the million-dollar question. So what? What does this autonomous future actually mean for us, and what new problems does it create?
Well, one of the first things to get totally turned upside down is how we pay for software. For the last, 20 years, everything has been about seat-based pricing. You pay per person. But that model is breaking. Why? Because if one person armed with an AI can do the work of 10 people, why would you pay for 10 seats? The future is all about paying for what you use or the outcome you get, not just for a login.
But look, all this incredible progress, it comes with a whole new set of headaches. First, you've got shadow AI. That's your employees using whatever AI tools they want, creating huge security risks. Then you have that pricing revolution we just talked about. Companies have to adapt or die. But there's a third, even deeper challenge here. It's the unspoken problem of machine identity.
Just let that question sink in for a second. If an AI agent has its own wallet and can spend real money, how do you know who it is? How do you prove what it's allowed to do? How do you trust it? All this power is useless if we don't have a reliable way to manage and verify the identities of these new economic actors.
So when you zoom out, what's really happening here is a total reorg of how we work. We're moving away from the old, rigid, human-only pyramid structure. The new model is a fluid, hybrid network where humans focus on the big-picture strategy and machines handle the execution with a speed and accuracy that we just can't match.
We've seen how these forces are converging to create an economy that's starting to run itself. As more and more of the day-to-day doing gets handed off to these autonomous agents, the value of what we humans do has to shift. It becomes less about managing processes and more about defining purpose. So the big question we're all left with is this. In a world where machines execute, what does it truly mean to be strategic? That's the challenge and the opportunity that lies ahead.